Hey everybody, it's Jordan here with Major Hi-Fi, back with another review. Today we've got something a little bit different than what we've been doing lately. We've got these true wireless earbuds, the Pi8 from Bowers Wilkins, and we're going to break that down and compare it to the Pi7 S2. But first, if you like what you're seeing here on Major Hi-Fi's YouTube channel, definitely like and subscribe so you can get more videos just like this right in your feed. Now, it feels like just yesterday that Bowers Wilkins released the Pi7 S2, but really it's almost been 2 years. So it's about time for an update from Bowers Wilkins, and they've given quite a big one. There's a lot of similarities, but there's even more differences between the two, and we'll break down everything for you to know if it's worth upgrading, if you're getting your first pair, which one to get, all of that. So stick around, and we'll get all of that information to you in this review. With both products, you get the earbuds, a charging case, various size ear tips, a Type-C charging cable, and what's really interesting is that both of these come with a 3.5mm to USB-C audio cable for audio retransmission. So we'll get more into that later on. Now, in terms of look, the Pi8 takes a pretty big change from what the Pi7 S2's design looked like. The Pi7 S2 kind of had a protruding circular piece that housed a bit of the electronics, whereas the Pi8 goes for more of an integrated design and has more of a streamlined look. It doesn't have that extra cylinder going off of it. So I think the look of the Pi8 is just a little bit more elegant than the Pi7 S2, but I think both look good. It really comes down to what your preference is, which one you think looks better. Again, I like the Pi8 personally because it doesn't have the cylinders sticking out of your ear. Now, in terms of fit, the Pi8 and Pi7 S2 are quite similar. They both require a little bit of twisting to get snug in your ear, but once you have that, they seal well, they feel good, and the only thing I can say is the Pi7 S2 might get a little heavier than the Pi8 due to that non-integrated design that the Pi8 introduced. I think it has a little bit more aerodynamics and just feels better in the ear. But overall, I did find both to be a little bit heavy, but that's kind of what you get with TWS. They have so many electronics inside that they're bound to be a little bit heavier. So the Pi8 comes in black, midnight blue, dove white, and the new color jade green. The Pi7 S2 does similar colors but does not have the jade green, which I do think is a looker. Today we have the black version of both in, so we won't be looking at the jade green directly today, but definitely take a look at that colorway because it looks really nice. Now, in terms of functionality and technical design, the Pi8 does bring substantial improvements over the Pi7 S2, or at least on paper it does. The Pi8 uses new carbon cone driver units, which are an improvement on the 9.2mm balanced armature and dynamic driver combination on the Pi7 S2. Bowers Wilkins says that these new drivers allow them to better tune the sound of the earbuds, and we'll get into the validity of that in the sound impressions section, but I will say that I did notice the Pi8 does get a bit louder than the Pi7 S2. There's just a little bit more headroom and breathing room for you to pump up the jams as you see fit. And then one last cool feature that these devices have that I mentioned in the What's in the Box section is that you can retransmit audio using a USB-C to 3.5mm cable, meaning you can take the audio from the case and plug it into, let's say, maybe a portable speaker or something like that through the aux cord. So that's a really cool feature to have. It's not something I've seen on a ton of true wireless earbuds. It definitely has a function and I think makes these a unique device for sure. Now, in terms of Bluetooth capabilities, the Pi8 does take a leap forward from the Pi7 S2, and that makes sense given they've come out so far away from each other. The Pi8 uses Bluetooth 5.4, whereas the Pi7 S2 uses Bluetooth 5.0. Bluetooth 5.4 means you'll get aptX lossless. With that, you'll get CD quality transfers over Bluetooth, and that's just really impressive. If you're a detail hound and you want these to perform at the absolute best they can with the codecs that make them capable of doing that, then the Pi8 is definitely the choice. That said, the Pi7 S2 still sounds pretty good and has aptX adaptive, which is also pretty good. It's just not lossless. Getting into battery life, I do have to say, neither of these earbuds have the greatest battery life we've ever seen. But the Pi8 does make some leaps forward in terms of improving that. The Pi7 S2 only does 5 hours outside of the case and up to 16 when used with the charging case. The Pi8, however, does 6.5 hours without the case and can get all the way up to 20 hours when used with the case. The Pi8 also supports quick charge. 15 minutes means 2 more hours of listening time, and it takes about 2 hours to get to a full charge. Now let's get into the sound impression. So we'll start with the bass, and I want to start out by saying that the Pi7 S2 and the Pi8 kind of have very different characteristics from each other. The Pi7 S2 is more V-shaped and exciting, whereas the Pi8 is a little bit more balanced, a little more relaxed, and a little bit closer to reference tuning. Both have their advantages, and we'll break those down in this section. Now, on the Pi7 S2, I just found there to be more sub-bass emphasis and punchiness that made these a little more fun to listen to. It goes pretty deep, but there is a carved out shelf in the mid-bass, so this is definitely a attacking bass response from the sub-bass perspective. The Pi8, on the other hand, is a little bit smoother, a little bit more neutral, less punchy, less dynamic, but still really even keeled with a nice, enjoyable presentation. Now, the Pi8 has a bit more of a linear and relatively forward presentation of the mid-range when compared to the Pi7 S2, and that makes sense because the Pi7 S2, like I said, is more V-shaped and more fun and more exciting. But I found the more forward and warm mids on the Pi8 to be more relaxing and a little bit more audiophile oriented. I don't know what that really means sometimes. You know, in an objective sense, audiophile means a more relaxed and refined sound, but the V-shaped fun excitement of the Pi7 S2 is also really entrancing. I really enjoyed that too. It really comes down to what you want out of an earbud. If you want those vocals presented with a nice warm timbre, though, the Pi8 is for you. If you prefer more of an elevated bass and treble response, then the Pi7 S2 is probably more up your alley. And so that brings us to the treble response, and I think I have spoiled what I'm going to say here at this point. The Pi7 S2 has a more exciting, maybe better extended top end, definitely a splashier top end, whereas the Pi8 has a more relaxed and subdued treble response. Now, I think this just comes down to taste. Like I said, in the mid-range, you're going to have your priorities. I think they sound quite different from each other, and I like to see that. They're not just trying to say, oh, it's a new generation, it's better. It's that it's a new generation, it's different. The Pi7 S2 might still be an option to a different type of listener, and that's why we're doing this comparison review, is that they have their pros and cons, and different listeners might find each one more appealing or less appealing. Now, finally, we didn't forget the soundstage. This is where they're pretty similar. I found both earbuds to have a pretty wide soundstage. At times, it does sound maybe artificially wide, and that just comes with the Bluetooth. Even with Bluetooth lossless, it's just a little bit outside of your head. There's not necessarily a clear center image, but I still think these are pretty impressive. I think both of these earbuds have some of the most impressive soundstage I've heard in a TWS earbud. So if you're a soundstage person, just know you can't really go wrong with either of these two. Stay focused on the timbre and the sound signatures of them. That's where the biggest differences are going to lie, as well as some of those technical features that the Pi8 introduced that the Pi7 S2 doesn't have. So wrapping things up, which one should you get? Well, one thing we haven't talked about yet is the price point on each of these. The Pi8 comes in at $399, while the Pi7 S2 comes in at about $259. So there is a significant price difference between the two. So if you like that fun and engaging sound signature, then the Pi7 S2 might be a clear choice for you. However, if you want to step into a more reference sounding, neutral, and maybe warm response, then the Pi8 is for you. Otherwise, considerations about battery life, technical design, that's all going to come down to your use case. Again, the Pi8 has better Bluetooth capabilities and a longer lasting battery, and a more elegant design than the Pi7 S2 in my opinion. So if those things all matter to you, then maybe it is worth upgrading to the Pi8. The one thing I can say is that both are really good options, and if you already have the Pi7 S2, I would really consider if those changes are really meaningful enough to you to step up. I think it is worth the upgrade if you want that reference sound, better battery life, and new design, and that new colorway, the jade green. But otherwise, if you're buying these new, if you don't have a pair yet, I think you're just going to have to weigh those differences. So that was pretty much everything with these two earbuds. I'm really impressed with what Bowers Wilkins is doing here. I like that they've taken an approach that's not just about making their previous generation obsolete, but presenting them both as valuable options to consumers. So that just about does it for us today. Again, I'm Jordan with Major Hi-Fi, and if you like this video, definitely like and subscribe down below. You'll get more videos just like this into your feed, and it helps us out too. So we'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.